Buffalo loses to Houston on Thursday Night Football. After starting the season with 4 wins, Bills have fallen on hard times, losing 4 of their last 7. Josh Allen loses 3 straight in primetime for the first time in his career. He was sacked 8 times Thursday. Most sacks he's had in his career. Here he is after the game.
I mean, it's hindsight's 20/20. Ultimately, we got to execute, and we didn't do a good enough job of that tonight. Whatever situation, whatever circumstance, we gotta put our head down and find a way there. And on the field, we didn't. That's what it comes down to.
With, you say, finding a way, but you had so many injuries happening on both sides of the ball. How is it to deal with that as it's happening during the game, and to, like you say, stay focused when kind of everything seems at some point, even the ref got hurt, everything's kind of falling apart.
Yeah, again, had a chance to win it there at the end, so that we did a good job of staying in it. Defense bailed us out at times, and again, we drive in the ball on that last drive, and we gotta find a way to get in. We didn't.
What happened on?
Yeah, frustrated Josh Allen after a loss to Houston. In Houston right now, our NFL reporter Dave Naylor. Dave, you're with me and Luke, so get ready for the tough questions, buddy. I'm going to start with how would you rank the Bills' problems on offense in this game?
Well, they were multiple, and I would start with the lack of open receivers. I mean, look, you combine the pressure Josh Allen was facing with a bunch of receivers who are having trouble separating, you get the results you did tonight. But I think you noticed that even when the Bills did have successful plays, they were one of two things: either Allen getting the ball out of his hands almost immediately, or plays that they were able to scheme up. And you can do that, through instances of a game, but it's hard to have your offense live off scheming up situations to get one player in isolation. There was the play along the right sideline to Shakir. There was the Boise State play with Josh Palmer and Shakir on the final drive. Thank you, Farhan Lalji, for noting that one to me. But, I mean, that was certainly a huge part. And the pressure, I've never seen Josh Allen under that kind of pressure. I mean, as soon as he moved off his first read, there were players in his face. And when Allen tried to do the magical thing, the twist, turn back across the field, there were no answers. The other part of it, I think, was they didn't get the run game going as well. I mean, James Cook had over 100 yards, 45 of it came on one play. But if you're going to struggle passing the football as much as the Bills did tonight, you're going to need more chunk plays, more big plays, more consistent to get that offense rolling. The other one was field position. I mean, the Bills' defense in the first half, it was kind of reminded me of the Atlanta game on Monday Night Football about a month ago, where the defense was very poor in the first half and tightened up in the second. But through the first 2.5, 3 quarters, even when they weren't giving up points, they were giving up field position. Bills were averaging scrimmaging about their own 13-yard line through the first 3 quarters. When you're going up against the #1 defense in the NFL and you're looking at an 87-yard field on average every time you take over possession, you're going to have a tough night.
Dave, let me ask. Dave, it's your guy, Luke, over here first and foremost. Let me ask you this. It looks like the Buffalo's going to have to go on the road in the playoffs unless there's a major slip-up from New England. Is there any division leader right now that you think is a good matchup for Buffalo? Again, I look at last week. They also had a great game against Tampa Bay. Matchup-wise, and it favors them, but that's an NFC team. Is there anyone you look at with your Buffalo right now where you say, this really bodes well playing this team?
I mean, you'd have to say Pittsburgh, I think, just because I think overall they're not as strong as the other teams you're looking at among the AFC leaders. And I think there's still, scenarios where Buffalo ends up in a wild card game against Baltimore or Kansas City where that could be very scary, especially since they have 2 victories against these teams. But so one of the things they're going to have to figure out is this is the second or third game this season where the Bills have really been susceptible to pressure. So if they get a matchup in the playoffs against a team that can bring the heat, I mean, they've got to. We've just never seen Josh Allen under this much pressure and struggle with that much. The other thing I think it's critical for them, and this is where you look at the weaknesses that are probably going to be prevalent in this team for the rest of the year, no matter who they play in the playoffs. And that is giving up lots of run yardage, which we saw again tonight through the first 2.5 quarters, and also the fact of the lack of separation. Well, what I think that really they're going to need is some game scripts where they get ahead in games, so they're less susceptible to the run, and they can at least not allow teams to just pin their ears back and run pressure against them when the Bills are having trouble running. So, I'm at this point right now, playing a team that can put pressure on the quarterback right now is going to be a tough scenario for the Bills when they're looking forward down this season.
And that's exactly the team they played on Thursday night, as you point out, Dave. Have we reached the limit of what Josh Allen can do without more talent around him, whether it's bringing talent in or guys who are just out of the lineup. We were talking about Keon Coleman. He's a guy they could have desperately used tonight, and he wasn't even in the lineup.
Yeah, I guess it was a good night if you're Keon Coleman, since he was sat out, not for disciplinary reasons, but performance. Terrell Shavers didn't have a catch. But you guys remember everyone eats, right? That was the Bills' mantra. We can live without a number one receiver. Everyone eats. We'll spread the ball around. Well, tonight was not an everyone eats game. I mean, Khalil Shakir led the team with 10 targets and 8 catches. That was more than double any other receiver on the Bills, or any other pass catcher on the Bills tonight. And look, with all due respect to Khalil Shakir, who I think is a quality receiver, a great yards after catch guy, has fabulous hands, but if he's the number one receiver, you're going to force 10 targets to a night. I think you're going to have some issues with the offense. The other thing, I think, it's an obvious thing in football, but remember that Bills' incredible streak where they won the turnover margin for an NFL record number of games? It was in the 20s. Well, there's been a pattern this year about losing the turnover battle consistently. They were 3-0 tonight, and I guess you can say something for this team that on a night they took 8 sacks and lost the turnover battle 3-0. They were down in the red zone with an opportunity to win it. I'll tell you one game, I think, one series, guys, that really kind of defined the Bills' struggles tonight, and that was that series early in the fourth quarter where they got down to about the Atlanta 20, and they ran 4 straight James Cook runs. Now, how many times have the Buffalo Bills been inside the other team's 30-yard line in any game at any time in Josh Allen's career, and he doesn't touch the ball? He hands it off 4 times. The only reason that happens is they don't have a lot of confidence that they can protect him and the receivers can get open. Ultimately, Cook got stopped on a 4th and 1. So I think that game was sort of a signature of the struggle. That series was a signature of what the Bills faced tonight, and really what they've been facing all season and what they're going to have to correct no matter who they play in postseason.
Dave, last one here for me. I'm just going to be very, very blunt. You look at this Bills defense. You're the Bills guy here. Nobody knows more about the Bills than you. Do you have any hope? To me, the injuries have decimated them. Is there any sign of hope from Dave Naylor on this defense?
Look, I think there can be some, okay? And look, one of the things tonight about Terrell Bernard going out, and we don't know his status right now, is Terrell Bernard has not had a great season. And Shaq Thompson, who went in and took his role in middle linebacker, there's certainly been stretches of games this season where Shaq Thompson has looked like a better player than Terrell Bernard. So in terms of injuries, but when you look at especially at the defensive line, the Bills did not the biggest difference in this game, everything else, was the Atlanta Falcons affected quarterback play at the line of scrimmage, and the Buffalo Bills did not. And when we saw Michael Hoyt for that game and a half and all the destruction he was able to create up front, when we saw what Ed Oliver could do during his time that he was healthy, chance they get him back in January, perhaps. But overall, I think this is why it comes back to game scripts. They're so important from Buffalo, and they got to get this offensive thing figured out, because I think if the Bills win games down the stretch, they're going to have to win them by scoring a lot of points. I don't think we're going to see a lot of, high efficiency, no turnover, cautious offense from Buffalo, holding other teams to 13 points.
Well, we're about to find out if the Bills are indeed a great matchup against the Steelers, because in Week 13, that's exactly who Buffalo will face, trying to get back into the win column. Dave Naylor from Houston, Texas. Go enjoy some barbecue or whatever they eat down there. Good job, Dave. More hockey highlights after the break.